What's up, Ramblers? Your favorite CEO is back. And before we begin today's podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode. And follow Assistance HQ and Offsource HQ across all platforms to stay up to date on the latest content, updates, and more. And remember, if you need a virtual assistant, visit us at offsource.tech. Now, before we begin, a word from our sponsor. Hey guys, welcome back to another wonderful episode of The Ramblings. I'm your host, Angelo. I have today with us a very close colleague, Demi Gray. We both met in Master Network. She is a lending broker, a mother of many things. And introduce yourself. How are you doing today, Demi?
Hey there, everyone. Demi Gray here in the building with Mr. Angelo Roberts, and I am doing well.
It's good to have you today. Thank you. So you're a lending broker, among other things. Give us a little bit of rundown. Give us a small bio of you.
Lending brokerage is one of many things, like you said. So one of the other things we provide is consultation and coaching for business owners, and then also for career professionals. Consulting more so for businesses and entrepreneurs who are looking to navigate how and what route to go about in terms of the lending options, funding solutions, ramping up, the business in preparation for capital, preserving their cash flows. So having those conversations with them so that they make the right decision, or if there is a decision to go down that path altogether. And other areas on the coaching side is really to do with professional development, career development, and then also like leadership development as well. So that's a part of that's another practice that we have started to focus on this year in 2022.
Wow, that's super amazing. Now, I'm going to dive right into some of the nitty gritty stuff, right? Finance is not the sexiest kind of thing to be in an industry. Also, we are Black. It's not really a prevalent thing within our community. How did you get into finance and how long have you been in finance? Give me your story.
Yeah, so it's interesting how I landed in finance. I am an HR geek by trade and a
Mm,
psychologist, right? So my career has moved me into this space by accident. So having
mm.
access to investors and lenders in corporate America prior to leaving corporate America has been kind of the conduit for me to jump into the finance space. You're right, it is not sexy, it's not fun. It can feel archaic and very overwhelming.
Mhm, mhm.
So, for me, it was really seeing it as a tool in corporate America as the way for organizations to accelerate their business using other people's money through the lending and investor avenue.
Oh wow, okay. So by accident, what was the accident that got you in here?
Yeah, so conversations, right? So it's always like about rubbing elbows with the right people. Networking is a real thing. And
Mhm,
even in corporate America, it is. And so by accident, in that having these casual conversations with lenders
mhm,
who are behind the scenes and infusing businesses, and specifically like small businesses that are looking to scale and grow.
mhm.
So I have private equity experience in corporate America, and that private equity backing, there's lenders that help to support in terms of the capital infusion. So my conversations with lenders and having relationships with the lenders was the accident in terms of, hey, this is a conduit for a broker, someone like you who
Mhm.
can be approachable and be an intermediary for companies, where you can actually be compensated as that conduit to get the capital infused for organizations. So those casual conversations, so networking is a thing. Having these relationships with lenders
Mhm.
that are actually backing these companies is really the accident. I'm in the room as an HR leader for an organization, at the board meetings, and then also kind of the after party, which is really the dinners after the board meetings. And again, just having these casual conversations in terms of what is it like to invest in an organization, what's needed. And then how do we move the organization forward from a capital perspective by keeping still a lot of cash flow on the book? So accident just by being friendly. And I guess people like when they like you, they like you. They're like, hey, how can we, keep this person in our circle somehow?
Right. Okay, so that's actually pretty interesting. How long have you been in corporate?
So I left corporate America in 2021, the first
Mhm.
quarter last year, but I have been in HR for 20 years, 20 plus years. So that has been my career path forever. So I always tell people I grew up in HR.
Mhm.
I've been a leader in the HR space, an executive leader in the HR space for the last 12 years of my career. And so that has been the marriage to the lending space by accident by having these back end conversations with the lenders.
Wow. Now, there's been a lot of talk. There's always a lot of talk when it comes to HR and things like that. So I kind of want to hear what your experience has been in HR, especially as a leader, and as a Black woman. What has been like your experience in HR, in corporate, in dealings? Like, what has been some of the issues that you've had faced and some of the things you've overcome?
So the very first thing, which is obvious, right? It's the elephant in the room, is being the polka dot, which is it may or may not be a good, bad, or indifferent. Depends on how one will perceive that to be. So I've been able to accomplish, being an influencer in the room, with a good old boy system. Being able to have hit the glass ceiling or cracked the glass ceiling or sit on top of that glass ceiling, however that is contextualized. So, that is an accomplishment from that perspective. However, some of the challenges is just that, right? You're in the room with people who have competing agendas and intentions and motivations, and it doesn't really agree with you always morally, right? Personally or professionally. So you have to compete with balancing the morality in the room with individuals who are primarily focused on top line and bottom line metrics, which are financials, right? It's the numbers. Money is what moves us, and money is power. So that was a challenge when you are overseeing people. And for me, the priority is always the people and the talent within the organization. It's okay, how do we keep our organization committed? How do we
Mhm.
keep talent committed to the organization? How do we keep, motivation high and remain a high performing workplace? And that cannot be done without the team members that we employ. So, bumping heads with numbers, versus people has always been a challenge, my entire career. And so I feel like one of the things that I will be able to accomplish as an entrepreneur and business owner is to really balance the fact that you can actually have the best of both worlds. You can focus on people with the highest intent and integrity, and then
Mhm.
also still get the top line and bottom line results that you're looking for.
Wow. So before the podcast, which I would kind of like, which is why I call it before the podcast, you had mentioned that you're an introvert that disguises herself sometimes as an extrovert, and human resources is a very human driven kind of thing. So you're going to be dealing with people all the time. Did you find yourself like constantly drained dealing with people like in as like an HR, or do you feel like being in HR is like a different perspective, and so you were able to balance it?
Yeah. So yeah, so the back end, right, in terms of me being an introvert, and it is really weird to be in HR as a people leader, and have this type of DNA structure. But for me, I believe it's been an advantage because I practice with my two ears and I try to keep my one mouth closed. So that has been a benefit for me in terms of me being actually a sounding board and a listener to individuals. So I do a lot of listening. I'm not always talking. In the corporate space, I talk when I need to speak, and usually the leaders or the board They usually want to pull information out of me. Demi, hey, you've been quiet. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? And then at that point is when I regurgitate and let them know exactly what's going on in the room. So I usually operate as a computer from that perspective in the HR realm. It's been advantageous because people like to listen to themselves primarily, right? So when people are coming to
I know I
me,
do.
yeah, when people are coming to me and they're talking, I'm just doing what I do best. I'm quiet and I'm just listening and I'm making them feel like what they're saying is landing on the right ears. I'm engaged, which I am because I'm listening to them intuitively. And then I also ensure that I understand exactly what they're talking to me about. And usually they feel like, oh man, I feel much better now that I've gotten all that off my chest. And I may or may not have done anything, but just sat there and listened. Sometimes it's two-way, depending on what the conversation is. But most of the time, for me, it's just been, hey, I'm here. So if you just need to come in and close the door and just talk to me about whatever is going on in your world, whether it's a great thing, it's something that we're going to celebrate, or something, an adversity, some issue you're having, I'm here to hear it out. And then from there, once they're done, talking through whatever it is, whether it's a good thing or it's a bad thing, I'm like, hey, what is it that you want me to do with this information, right?
Right.
If it's a bad thing, do you want me to pursue any specific type of action? And usually like, no, not really. I just wanted to get that off my chest. Or if it's a moment of celebration, then at the end, we're celebrating. We're excited about it. We're sharing it. How do we share this? Who's the key individuals we want to, get this disseminated out to. So that's how it has translated to success for me. However, at the end of the day, you know what I do? I turn my ears off, I turn my eyes off, my mouth off, and then I try not to think too much because I don't even want to be in my own thoughts because, of course, I've drained my energy with engaging with the teams.
Wow. Okay. So what brings your energy back up when you're by yourself? What do you like to do, like for self care, for getting your energy back up? Because you had to do that, almost 5 days a week for 12 years. So you got to have something. What's your uplifting energy kind of thing?
Yeah, and it's really boring. So what I do is I go into my oasis, which is, i.e., my bathroom, right? It's a nice big space. I soak, in the tub. I'm probably reading something or listening to either
What do you like
a
to read?
book. Yes, I'm either listening. I'm sorry, listening to a book. I may be doing some learning, like online learning through an LMS, whether it's work related or business related. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
learning that I do. And then as a prior, as a full-time student, I just recently passed my comp exams for my PhD in
Oh,
engagement. I
congratulations.
know psychology. So there was a lot of reading and writing that I had to engage in. So with that,
Does that mean you're like a
usually
doctor now?
I am a PhD.
Why
Yes.
didn't we start with that, Dr. Demi Gray?
Yeah, it is an amazing accomplishment,
Okay,
and
so I don't mean to cut. I don't mean to cut you off. Sorry about that. I kind of want to dive in that real quick.
yeah.
PhD, over the course of 12 years, being an HR leader, being a mom, how are you balancing like three, four major things?
You know what, Angela, I have no idea. Like, I have no answer to that. But remember the vaccines, right? When we're talking, I have a lot of stamina.
Hmm.
And I think that is the key. But perseverance and grit and hustle, like I'm a grinder. But I also try to preserve my energy, right? As an introvert, right? I'm always protecting my energy and I'm protecting everything around me environmentally. So I don't try to overexert anything where I'm not supposed to. Like, do I give this my thought? Do I give this my attention? Do I give this my focus? Maybe not. Moving on, to the next thing. But from that perspective, I think that helps. But the right answer really is I really have no idea. I don't. And the only thing that I can come to is that I try to preserve my energy, and maybe being an introvert is the reason why I'm able to kind of balance these things, is because I'm not overly committing to too much
Mhm.
from an energy standpoint.
Okay. So what made you choose psychology for your PhD? Why psychology? Because
Yeah,
that's
because
talking with people. That I would feel like I would think it would be something along the lines of maybe history where you don't have to talk to as many people. It's more like research or something. But why psychology? That requires, I would think, like to actually practice and use it, talking to people.
no, it's really understanding human behavior and human dynamics,
Mm.
cognitive thinking, the why behind behavior. Why is why would they respond that way? Oh, this person has PTSD in this particular area. Or, why, would someone respond and react in a certain behavioral trait? Understanding where people are, not particularly in a bucket, but just understanding, behaviors and discriminating and dissecting between a reaction to to people. So that's the inquisitive of my study, is really understanding behavioral dispositions and exertions with people, behind people.
Mm. So was like psychology something you've always been interested in? Was it like growing up, you're like, I like psychology. I like how the mind works.
Yeah, so I'm always curious as to the big why, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the thing for me. However, when I growing up, I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. I've always professed that, thought that I was going to be a medical doctor back in the days when I started my academic pursuit to go to medical school, and quickly learned before a germaphobe was even a thing that I was a germaphobe. Right? I didn't want anyone's bodily fluids to touch me, and
Oh
I didn't
yeah,
want to
no.
touch
Oh,
anyone's,
oh, oh,
yes,
yeah, no,
bodily
I can't.
fluids.
Don't touch me with no body
Yes.
fluids. Oh, nah.
So, right. It's like, so yeah, I quickly knew that that was not my career path. I wanted to help people. I wanted to understand people and do something that was
Mhm.
meaningful, but that felt good to me as well. So it took a minute. I went from medical school to accounting, and I was like, this is boring, but it was
Oh no, guys,
interesting.
don't talk about my accounting people. Like, but
I'm so
accounting is
sorry for my
boring.
accounting.
No, it's boring.
But
Trust me.
hey,
I
please
went to
stand
school
up.
for accounting and didn't even want to do it.
Hey,
So,
it was just not for me. I love my accounting people and my numbers people, and we're actually best friends, right? It's like ironic. I'm in finance.
mhm.
So, so all my accounting people, please stand up like Eminem says. But it was just not my thing. Like, I'm not
Right.
structured and wired that way. Everyone has, right? There's the psychology in me, right? Everyone is wired a certain way. So in any case, did that for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and realized, okay, no, this is not my path. And I ended up getting tapped on the shoulder by an executive. When I started my career, I was in operations. They tapped me on the shoulder, like, you would be great for HR. We'd like for you to jump into this space, blah, blah, blah. So fast forward, as I was working as an early career HR professional, I would get assessments and other types of documents to help understand hiring the right individuals into an organization. And so that really accelerated the interest and the inquiry as to, why would someone want to hire this type of person? And then, well, why would someone even want to work here? And why, right? Just continuing down the path of the why. So that was the interest. So my degree in psychology specializes in industrial and organizational psychology, which is referred to as IO psych. So that specifically has to do with the workplace and the work environment and the people within it. And so that was the path that I went down once I identified exactly what that study would be.
Wow. Okay. So being in HR for 20 years, leader for 12, what do you see as being the state of HR now? Like, how do you see HR now versus how HR has used to be?
Yeah, so it has continued to evolve from back in the day when I started early career to where it is when I left corporate America, and then where we're going now post COVID. It's
Mm.
interesting because the labor force makes a shift and changes. So it's almost like with buying and selling homes, it's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market. Well, it's a labor's market, right? Because with the
Mm-hmm.
labor shortage and the demand for people and for talent per se, it changes the dynamics and the structure in which how HR will attract people to work for organizations. So that continues to evolve. Um, while that evolution happens in terms of some of the unorthodox things that we do to attract, like we change our compensation structure, we change our benefit structure, we change signing bonuses, we try to change the work environment so that people are more focused on creating an engaging and a healthy workplace culture. There's laws that are also being implemented at the same time so that it opens up and it expands the corporate's ability to, or I should say, the equality of which they actually add team members onto the organization. So you see diversity, equity, and inclusion everywhere, which has always been the case, right? I.e., affirmative action, EEOC, but now we're casting this light on it. So, those type of social environments and influences that happen in our social ecosystem is creating some influence on HR. I feel like it's a little bit in flux with the talent, competing for the talent shortage. So, I believe that our structures in which our comp structures will have a huge impact on HR. I believe the way that we engage with our operations leaders and the work environment with leaders will change so that we are creating these healthy, happy workplaces. Virtual workplaces will not go away, so being more flexible and having team members to have more autonomy in their work and their day to day will also have an influence. And so we'll continue to see this evolution in this space, but really, truly, it's going to be focused on engagement and culture. So I believe that those are going to be some heavy hitters for the HR organization and that ecosystem in the workplace.
I like that. Not necessarily playing devil's advocate, but I do want to bring something to your attention and I want to see your thoughts on it, right? So I was listening to like a different podcast, right? And they were talking about how there's not really a labor shortage. It's a lack of companies being able to really adjust to the new market. As you had mentioned, there's fluxes, there's the employer's market, there's the employee market. And employers, I think, have a harder time adjusting than employees because they are the ones who usually have the power dynamic. Now, one of the things I heard is that there's not necessarily a labor shortage, but companies just not willing to pay or really treat their employees like actual human beings, and that they just have options in today's day and age. So I want you to speak on that very quickly. Do you really think that there's a labor shortage, or do you think that it's companies failing to really react to the change in market?
Yes, so the labor shortage is a direct result and correlation to how they're trying to attract team members, right? Because people don't want to
Mm,
work in the traditional setting the way that it was set up pre-COVID. So COVID has taught companies a lesson that you can actually have high performing workplaces with individuals working virtually across the world. And
mhm.
so now that individuals have become accustomed to the fact that you can have autonomy and a flexibility in your work schedule and balance your work life, right? People want healthy work life balance and they want to have these flexors where they're able to bridge their personal with their profession. And when the company is not providing that or offering that, or accommodating to that, then the answer is for me, or if you're asking me if I'm interested in working for your organization, the answer is no. I don't have an interest because I can go work for another organization that will accommodate for these efforts. No, and I'd rather not work for you, right? So I believe that what COVID has done is increase this birth of entrepreneurs, right? Too, in addition to side hustlers and side hustles. So everyone has an opportunity to earn something in some other way. So we've become extremely creative and we've come up with some unorthodox opportunities. We are taking advantage of small business opportunities where we can so that we are still not impacted financially from an economic perspective.
Mhm.
So we have more say in terms of what our work environment will look like. So it does feel like it's a labor shortage because no, we're not taking the crumbs that you're willing to offer us for this
Mhm.
particular position when I can do better on my own, or I can go to an organization who's going to value my flexibility expectations, and then I'll just take my talents there.
Wow, I like that. Well articulated in terms of that response. I like that. Okay, so before I actually have to kind of get you out or anything, I kind of want to ask. We always ask like one very point question. Now, I want this one to be directed towards HR, right? So, if you were to say one thing to HR companies that you would like for them to do differently, well, not HR companies, but like HR organizations, what would you want to see them do differently now that you've had like your experience and everything? Like, what is the one thing that you want to tell them that you'd say, hey, I want you guys to start looking at this, doing this differently? What would you give to HR organizations?
Yeah, I would say be genuinely receptive to the feedback that your team members provide, right?
Mhm.
And do something about it. So, when organizations want to grow, or expand, or they're looking to make these huge change modifications, right? Any type of um, organizational development, organizational change, it requires people, right? So, absent of your teams or the people that are within the work environment,
Mhm.
you're going to suffer, right? So, if everyone decided to leave an organization up in arms, and this is a high producing firm that has x amount of clients, and everyone decides to jump bail, right, and leave the organization, what does it do to the company? It's going to stifle them,
Mhm.
right? No company can operate without an employee or without employees. And so when employees give feedback in terms of their work setting, the work function, the way that the job is designed, the environment, safety issues, cultural issues, you should listen carefully. And then you should also try to figure out how to do something about it. So, taking the feedback, genuinely try to execute on it where you can, where you have the affordability to do so. When employees feel like their concerns or their efforts go on deaf ears, that's when they become disengaged and uninterested. And then their eyeballs are always constantly looking for another opportunity or another exit. So if you are interested in keeping your employees engaged and inwardly focused, always pay attention to all of their signals and their flags that they wave, and do something about it. Don't allow feedback to go in vain. And so you can grab my book as well. The X Factor of Employee Engagement: Why Employee Motivation Should Be Every Company's Goal.
You keep dropping more things as we keep going on. I wish I knew you would like. Okay, so now I have to like take a quick little thing. We're gonna have to come back into this author book. What is this book about? I didn't even know you were an author of a book either. Tell people a
Yeah,
little bit
so
about
I
that.
released that book last year, to the point, to the question you just asked, Angela, which is a valid question. What do we do with our team members? And engagement and motivation are key, right?
Mhm.
It's the behavior. It is, what's the experience like? What is the culture like? And so my book, it's the X Factor of Employee Engagement. Why employee motivation should be every company's goal. It's important because if you need someone to operate, if you need an employee to help your organization perform and produce and deliver
Mhm.
on quality services, then you should be concerned with an engaged workforce.
I'm gonna need a copy of that book. Where can I find it?
So you can get access to this book on Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. It's available on iTunes. It's an Audible book as well.
Oh,
So
perfect. Oh my God. Did
yeah,
you do the reading for it?
I did not. I do not like how I sound over voiceover. So we did
What?
hire an actor. His name is Andrew to read the book. So it is a guy, and I'm happy with it.
Wow, I think you would have sounded great reading the book, but that's absolutely wonderful. Okay, so the book, the authorism, everything. Let's get a quick recap on the book. your socials, where can we find you? So the book title, and where can we find it?
Yep. So the book title is The X Factor of Employee
Mhm.
Engagement: Why Employee Motivation Should Be Every Company's Goal, by Demi Gray. My social media handles is LinkedIn.in. I am Demi Gray. And then if you search I am Demi Gray via Google, you'll probably find me in a bunch of different places. That is my hashtag. I am also at I am Demi Gray on Instagram and demigray.author on Facebook.
Wow, a lot, and we absolutely love it, guys. The links will be in the description, so make sure that you're checking that out and go get you a copy of that book, especially if you're in HR as a solopreneur. I think that that's going to be amazing. I'm going to go pick my copy up like right now, guys. So thank you so much for joining us today, Demi. It's been absolutely amazing. I feel like you've provided a lot of value, and I think that HR companies are definitely going to give this a listen. So I'll make sure this gets chopped up. I'll send you out some stuff. And thank you for joining the Ramblings today.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for having me so much, Mr. Angelo Roberts. I appreciate your time, your energy, and all that. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey, Ramblers, that's it. Podcast is over. Don't leave yet, though. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and follow us on YouTube at OffSource HQ. We'll see you next time.